School Safety, Gun Violence and Preventative Measures, Fort Hays State University, AEP 830, Educational Research, Dr. Cynthia Miller, by Mark Sambo. Introduction. Why this topic? I chose this topic because of what I identified in another class during my master's as areas of concern for possible gun violence against students and staff within our own school. With gun violence becoming increasingly more prevalent within the field of education in the last decade and a half, I thought this to be an appropriate educational research topic. The tragic events at Sandy Hook Elementary only further assured me that this was a topic to research. I thought that this must become a more publicized topic of discussion, not only by the media, possibly over-publicized by the media, but really within the educational forum. I thought more questions need to be raised on measures of prevention, from early detection to immediate deterrence. What better way to do so than to write a research paper discussing these kinds of prevention measures schools are taking and should be taking. Introductions continued. Questions approach for this topic. Questions I use to approach this topic in a narrow focus. What common security systems have schools gone to in recent years? How do those systems or measures differ from those a decade and a half ago? So looking at when we're first talking about these incidents in the mid-90s to where security measures are today. Are they different? Are they the same? What can we correlate from that? Do schools with certain systems or measures of security statistically reduce the chances of such acts of violence? Why or why not? What measures were in place at schools where gun violence occurred? What aspects were overlooked? What aspects were underappreciated in saving lives? And what I mean by that question is there's a lot of times still acts of violence occur, but sometimes we underappreciate the preventative measures that were taken, and really those numbers could have been higher. What key features within a school and on the general campus discourages individuals from such acts of violence? What characteristics deter individuals in other areas of society or the world? I think it's important that we look outside the box at this topic as well, and we take maybe statistical data from other areas of the world or society and see preventative measures and how they correlate to general education or the educational environment. Are early detection measures the most efficient way to deter such acts within the school setting? If so, what do school officials, administrators, and law enforcement need to enable them to assess such potential risk factors? Does creating visible deterrence to such acts of violence within the school setting corrupt the educational environment for the student? What I'm trying to discuss with that question is balancing taking extreme measures for personal safety from such acts as examples of gun violence to corrupting that conducive educational environment. What's best for the student? Review of literature. Finding the information. The information acquired for this topic stems from a number of areas and sources, including federal and state data links, national media outlets, while also incorporating local statistics and coverage as well. I found a number of credible and valid sources in various educational libraries across the country, including many university-financed studies. For example, What Can Be Done About School Shootings, a review of evidence from 2010. The information, data, and statistics were grouped by various categories, including location, preventative measures used, outcome, and timetable and year. This early organization within the research process allowed for a more fluent and well-organized paper. Review of literature continued. Literature titles used in the research and documentation of this topic. What Can Be Done About School Shootings? A review of evidence. An epidemic of violence. Incidents in schools rise sharply since Sante shooting. Architects seek safer schools. Shootings and teen violence inspire new, safer school design. What really makes schools safer? Gun violence. Scholars face data, funding barriers. Review of literature continued. Literature titles. Zero Tolerance. Safer Schools or Unfair Rules. Exploring School Rampage Shootings. Research, Theory, and Policy. Do cops with guns mean safer schools? School discipline at a crossroads, from zero tolerance to early response. Obama's proposal on school safety. The final report and findings of the Safe School Initiative. Implications for the prevention of school attacks in the United States. The research, vision, and prediction. The research aspect of my paper. I believe my research follows suit with those articles, books, and essays I used for this paper. I organized the information in an efficient manner, focusing both on qualitative and quantitative measures. I examined the topic in great deal while approaching the issue with a narrow focus and relationship to my research question. The research, vision, and prediction. The vision. The vision of this paper was giving the reader information and preventative tactics and proactive measures against gun violence within their school or the school setting. One aspect of that focus I gave more prevalence to than other authors was preventive measures for gun violence in relation to the school's demographics, locality, and level, grade school through high school. I gave this added insight because I felt other authors didn't. I support my evidence through the gathered information and findings within the research portion of this paper. I felt it important for the reader to understand certain measures of prevention are not all universal and not all effective pending place. Some preventive measures that have been successful might not be as effective or efficient for their particular school simply based on its demographics, its locality, and its grade level. The research, vision, and findings continue. My hopeful findings for the reader in this paper. The most important part of this paper and research is to make sure the reader is getting a general sense of what actions, steps, and measures can best help their individual district or building in deterring future acts of gun violence using concrete data to support my findings. Limitations. What were the limitations of this paper? I think the biggest limitation of this study and this topic in this paper is the not knowing factor. How many acts across the country have been altered or deterred because of certain measures of prevention taken, or simply a change of good conscience? We really don't know, and we really can't evaluate how many. It's a research topic that unfortunately in most cases can only be evaluated upon after the attempt or actual occurrence of the school tragedy. We can assess, we can examine, and we can interview those individuals who committed or tried to commit these acts, while at the same time understanding they tried to go through with it, and in many cases, unfortunately, were successful. Conclusion. I hope the reader can take a great deal of information from this paper that can help their district or building in relation to gun violence within the school setting. I expect the reader to encounter ideas already established within their district or building and be ready to put into action. I also hope that the reader is enlightened in new discussions of preventative measures that are optimal for their specific needs in building design. Conclusion continued. Does creating visible deterrence to such acts of gun violence within the school setting corrupt the educational environment for the student? This is the ultimate question that districts, building administrators, and superintendents across the country have to ask. That's the difficulty in this process, finding the appropriate balance of extreme safety measures while still promoting that inviting and educational environment to not only students, but parents and patrons. I really enjoyed the research, writing, and time committed to this process and paper. I fully plan to continue upon this direction of research and writing. I look forward to the opportunities within my own district to offer insight and expertise on this particular issue. My works cited. Sources used in this presentation and throughout my paper.